After game week 1 went mostly as expected with victories for last season's top 4, game week 2 offers more potential for things to be shaken up. I'll have a look at each team's tactics, last games, and injury list, as well as any new signings and predict how the managers may tweak things, as well as the result. We'll get straight to it for the Saturday lunchtime kickoff as Brighton host Man U. The Seagulls won 3-0 away to Everton in their last match. In that game, they lined up in a 4-2-3-1 with Jason Steele in goal, a back four of Joel Veltman, Jean-Paul Van Hecke, Captain Lewis Dunk and Jack Hinchelwood, James Milner and Mats Wiefer in defensive midfield, Yankuba Minter on the right with Joao Pedro at number 10, Kaoru Mitoma on the left and Danny Welbeck up front. Carl Rushworth, Adam Webster, Valentin Barco, Billy Gilmore, Jeremy Sarmiento, Carlos Baleba, Yasin Ayari, Simon Adingra and Marco Mahoney were on the bench. Karo Mitoma got the opener with James Milner booked in injury time of the first half. Minte was forced off with concussion and replaced by Adingra. Danny Welbeck got the second, with Adam Webster replacing Lewis Dunk in the late stages. Gilmore and Sarmiento also got minutes, replacing Milner and Pedro. Adingra scored the third. Ayari also replaced Mitoma late on. Julio and Cesar, Igor Julio, Solomon March and Bart Verbruggen are definitely out for this one. Pervis Estupinian, Tariq Lamptey and Evan Ferguson are back in training, but may not be ready for this game. Minte has been confirmed to be fine for Saturday. New signing Brahan Gruder has a small knock, but Fabian Hertzler may want to wait a little longer to integrate him, and new signing Jorginho Rutter. The German has been keen to use his new signings, with Wiefer doing most of the defensive work in midfield, allowing less responsibilities for Milner. United won their last game as well, 1-0 at home to Fulham. It was a 4-2-3-1 for the Red Devils, with Andre Onana in goal, Nasser Mazraoui, Harry Maguire, Lissandro Martinez and Diogo Dalot in the back four, Casemiro alongside Kobe Mainu in defensive midfield, and Amad Diallo, Mason Mount and Marcus Rashford behind captain Bruno Fernandes in a back four. Altay Bayindir, Matthias de Ligt, Johnny Evans, Christian Eriksen, Scott McTominay, Toby Collier, Joshua Zirkzee, Alejandro Garnacho and Anthony were on the bench. Mount and Maguire picked up yellows in the first half, and after an hour, Zirkzee and Garnacho came on for Mount and Diallo. Later on, Evans and Elect replaced Maguire and Mazraoui, and then McTominay came on for Mainu. Zirkzee scored a late winner. The Red Devils have some transfer news, with midfielder Seko Kone coming in from Gidars FC. Forward Facundo Pellistri sold to Panathinaikos for a reported £5.1 million, plus £1.7 million in add-ons, and midfielder Maxi Oyadele sold to Legia Warsaw for an undisclosed sum. Number of injuries for United as Lenny Yoro, Tyrell Malacia, Will Fish, Luke Shaw, Rasmus Winther-Hoyland and Victor Lindelof are definitely out. Jadon Sancho may be fit, although it's unlikely he'll make the squad amidst rumours he is being courted by Chelsea. Harry Maguire should be fine despite appearing to limp off on Friday. In this one, I expect Brighton to make no changes, with Danny Welbeck keeping his place for now. For United, it is likely Xerxes will start and Fernandes will drop back in midfield. And I also think there is a possibility that De Ligt comes in, probably for Maguire. United were brilliant off the ball on Friday, but until Xerxes came on, they were toothless going forward. Brighton had a brilliant start and will fancy themselves here, and I think United will have a tough time with it. I'm tempted to give Brighton the win, but I'll split the points. 1-1. Plenty of games not on telly this weekend, starting with West Ham's visit to Crystal Palace. The Eagles lost 2-1 away to Brentford on Sunday with a 3-4-2-1 formation. Dean Henderson was in goal with a backline of Chris Richards, Joachim Anderson and captain Mark Gay. Daniel Munoz, Adam Wharton, Will Hughes and Tyrick Mitchell made up a midfield four, with Daichi Kamada and Eberechi Eze behind Jean-Philippe Mateta in a front three. On the bench were Sam Johnston, Nathaniel Klein, Chadi Riyad, Hefferson Lerma, Jeffrey Schlupp, Jake Ducore, Ismail Assar, Jordan Ayew and Odson Edouard. Anderson picked up a yellow card in the first half before Brentford went ahead through Brian and Burmo, and Gay was also booked in injury time. At the break, Edouard replaced Mateta. Palace equalised through an Ethan Pinnacle goal before Richards was booked, as was Kamada. Ayew then replaced the Japan international, and Lerma then came on for Wharton. Brentford got the winner through Johan Wissa, and the substitutions of Decore and Sarr on for Hughes and Richards couldn't save them. They have signed goalie Louis Malden from Wolves on a free. Ayew was booked in injury time. Matthias Franzer is the only man out for Oliver Glasner's side, who will be hoping for better at home. West Ham also lost their opener 2-1 at home to Aston Villa. They lined up in a 4-1-4-1 with Alphonse Areola in goal, a back four of Vladimir Soufal, Konstantinos Mavropanos, Maximilian Kilman and Emerson. Guido Rodriguez was in defensive midfield with captain Jared Bowen, Tomas Soucek, Lucas Paquetá and Mohamed Kudus ahead of him. Mikel Antonio was up front. On the bench was Łukasz Fabianski, Aaron Cresswell, Jean-Claire Todibo, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Andy Irving, James Ward-Prowse, Crescencio Somerville, Niklas Füllkrug, and Danny Ings. The Irons went behind early on thanks to Amadou Onana, and Paquetá was booked. They equalised from a penalty from the Brazilian. Their first subs came late on with Fulkrug, Somerville and Ward-Prowse on for Antonio, Bowen and Paquetá. John Duran scored the winner with late subs for Ings and Todibo, replacing Rodriguez and Soufal not enough. Edson Alvarez Velázquez is a big injury doubt, but maybe back in the squad. Central midfielder Mohamedou Kante has been loaned back out to Paris FC as part of his deal. Villa gave West Ham little on Saturday, and it is expected that Julen Lopetegui will introduce more of his signings, such as Fulkrug, Wan-Bissaka and Somerville, but the Spaniard has been reluctant to force them all in at once. Palace pressed hard on Sunday, focusing a lot of their attacks down the left in an attempt to get the most out of Eberechi Eze. I would probably predict a draw for this one, but there are very big doubts that Palace's two main defenders, Gay and Anderson, will be even at the club. There are huge rumours that Gay will join Newcastle and Anderson Fulham. Therefore, I'll give it to the visitors, 2-0. Fulham host Leicester City in another 3 p.m. clash. Fulham lost their last game 1-0 away to Man United. They lined it in a 4-2-3-1 for that. Captain Bernd Leno was in goal with a back four of Kenny Teti, Issa Diop, Calvin Bassey and Anthony Robinson. Andres Pereira and Sasha Lukic were in defensive midfield, with Adama Traore, Emil Smith-Rowe and Andres Pereira behind Rodrigo Muniz in the front four. Stephen Bender, Jorge Cuenca, Timothy Castagna, Harrison Weed, Harry Wilson, Tom Kearney, Josh King, Raul Jimenez and Jay Stansfield were on the bench. Bassey was booked in the first half and Kearney came on for Smith-Rowe in the second. Pereira and Kearney picked up yellows, with Wilson and Jimenez on for Kearney and Muniz. After Joshua Zirkzee scored the winner, Stansfield and Reed came on for Lukic and Pereira, but it was not enough. Fulham have announced a big signing, that of central midfielder Sander Berger from Burnley, for £20 million plus £5 million in add-ons. It is unclear whether or not the Norwegian will go straight in, but Fulham have no injury problems apart from that. Leicester drew 1-1 at home to Spurs on Monday. They also played in a 4-2-3-1 with Mads Hermansen in goal and a back four of James Justin, Yannick Vestergaard, Wout Faes and Victor Christiansen. Harry Winks and Wilfred Ndidi played in the engine room with Abdul Fatawu, Facundo Buonanotte and Bobby Decordova-Reid behind captain Jamie Vardy in the front four. Danny Ward, Caleb Akoli, Ricardo Pereira, Ben Nelson, Hamza Chowdhury, Bubakari Sumare, Casey McAteer, Steffi Mavadidi and Thomas Cannon were on the bench for the Foxes. They went down 1-0 in the first half to Pedro Porro's goal, but equalised through Vardy. Mavadini and Sumare then came on for Vardy and Buonanotte. McAteer also replaced Decordova-Reid late on, and Faes picked up an injury time yellow. They are definitely without Jakub Stowarchuk, Patson Daka and Connor Cody, though Luke Thomas is back in training and may be fit to play. So, both Fulham and Leicester played well against Europa League sides, and Leicester managed to hold Tottenham to a draw. They both showed adventure, with Fulham putting Pereira in holding midfield, which hurt them defensively but added a creative spark, which would have worked if they could have taken their chances. Leicester had a brilliant second half against Spurs, pressing about 10 metres higher than the first, and focusing on crosses, which their goal came from. I think they may get another 1-1 draw. Travelling north as Manchester City host Ipswich, the Citizens beat Chelsea away 2-0 in their last game using a 3-2-4-1, with Ederson in goal and a back three of Manuel Akanji, Ruben Dias and Joško Vardiol. The engine room had Rico Lewis and Mateo Kovacic, with Jeremy Doku, Bernardo Silva, captain Kevin De Bruyne and Savinho behind Erling Haaland. Stefan Ortega, Kyle Walker, John Stones, Nathan Ake, Jack Grealish, Matthias Nunes, Phil Foden, Nico O'Reilly and James McAtee were the subs. Haaland scored the opener with Foden on for Savinho at half-time. Haaland also picked up a yellow with Kovacic scoring the second late on. Oscar Bob is definitely out, while Savinho's injury is minor but may affect his participation here. Rodrigo Hernandez Cascante may come back, but this one probably comes too soon for him. Ipswich lost 2-0 away to Liverpool using a 4-2-3-1. Christian Walton was in goal with a back four of Axel Tuanzebe, Luke Wolfenden, Jacob Greaves and Leif Davis. Captain Sam Morsey and Massimo Luongo were in the engine room with Wes Burns, Connor Chaplin and Amari Hutchinson behind Liam Delap. Kieran Slicker, Cameron Burgess, Ben Johnson, Connor Townsend, Calvin Phillips, Marcus Harness, Jack Taylor, Sam Smodics and Ali Al-Hamadi on the bench. Wolfenden, Hutchinson and Burns all picked up yellows in the first half. Johnson came on for Burns in the second, and soon after they went 1-0 down thanks to Diogo Jota. Taylor and Harness came on for Luongo and Chaplin, but Mohamed Salah made it 2-0. There was also time for Smodics and Al Hamadi, who came on for Twanzebe and Delap. They have loaned midfielder Cameron Humphreys to Wickham. They have a long list of players sidelined, with Harry Clark, George Hurst, Wesley Burns, and Nathan Broadhead definitely out. Arianet Muric is a doubt after missing the last game with a minor injury, while Phillips is ineligible to face his parent club and Jonoy Donassian is out of contract. Man City won at Chelsea by exposing the wide areas, knowing that the Blues wingers would not do defensive work, and therefore instructing De Bruyne and Lewis to join the official wingers, Savinho and Doku, with just 18% of their attacks coming down the middle. However, it's probable that this was mostly a tactic for Chelsea rather than a common thing, and Pep Guardiola likes to switch it up on a very common basis. Ipswich unsettled Liverpool in the first half with aggressive pressing and quick tempo passing, but they were unable to sustain it for the full game, and I think they'll lose again here today. I'm calling it 4-0 to Man City. Southampton host Nottingham Forest in their first home game. The Saints lost 1-0 away to Newcastle using a 3-5-2 with Alex McCarthy in goal. Taylor Harwood-Bellis, Jan Bednarek and captain Jack Stevens were the back three, with Yukinari Sugawara, Will Smallbone, Flynn Downs, Joe Aribo and Carl Walker-Peters the midfield five. Adam Armstrong and Ben Brereton lined up as the front two. Joe Lumley, James Bree, Nathan Wood, Charlie Taylor, Carlos Alcaraz, Samuel Edozie, Tyler Dibling, Cameron Archer, and Sam Amo Amior were on the bench. Brereton picked up a yellow in the first half before Joy Linton scored the only goal. Stevens also picked up a yellow in injury time. Edozie came on for Sugawara, with Dibling and Archer on for Aribo and Brereton with 20 minutes to go. Harwood Bellis was also booked, and Alcaraz and Amo Amior's replacing of Carl Walker-Peters and Bednarek also did not save Southampton. Edozie also picked up a yellow in injury time. They have some transfer news, as goalie Mateus Liss has been loaned out to Göztepe. Gavin Bazunu is definitely out, with Kamaldeen Sulemana close to a return, perhaps as early as Saturday. Ross Stewart and Adam Lallana are also close, but Russell Martinez aimed for a midweek return for them. Juan Larios has got minutes with the under-21s under his belt, so can't be ruled out of returning. Nottingham Forest drew 1-1 at home to Bournemouth in their opener. Matt Sells was in goal with a back four of Neco Williams, Williano Bolli, Murillo and Ola Aina. Ibrahim Sangare and Danilo were in defensive midfield, with Anthony Elanga, Captain Morgan Gibbs-White and Callum Hudson-Odoi behind Chris Wood up top. Carlos Miguel, Andrew Omobamidele, Harry Tofolo, Elliot Anderson, Nicolas Dominguez, Ryan Yates, Taiwo Awoniyi, Eric da Silva Moreira and Jota Silva were on the bench. Danilo was forced off for Yates early on, with Wood scoring the opener soon after. Williams got a yellow early in the second half, with Tofolo and Dominguez soon on for Aina and Delanga, both of whom picked up knocks. Awoniyi and Anderson came on for Wood and Hudson-Odoi. Antoine Semenyo scored a late equaliser. The big transfer news is the sale of Joe Worrell to Burnley for an undisclosed sum. Nikola Milenkovic was suspended due to a red card picked up at his previous club Fiorentina, with it being unclear if he is back, while Danilo will be out for some time. Ilanga and Aina are also doubts after coming off early on Saturday. Southampton dominated their game on Saturday due to a red card, but even before that they seemed more than ready for the Premier League. However, a mistake playing out from the back led to their only goal. This was poor, but their failure to convert huge chances led to even more questions. Nottingham Forest will hope to dominate possession as they did last weekend, and they focus play massively on the left. I will say 1-0 Forest. The last 3 p.m. game comes as Spurs host Everton. The Lily Whites used a 4-3-3 in Monday's 1-1 draw away to Leicester. They had Guglielmo Vicario in goal, a back four of Pedro Porro, Christian Romero, Mickey van der Veen and Destiny Udogie, Pap Sarr, Rodrigo Bentancur and James Maddison in midfield, with a front three of Brennan Johnson, Dominic Solanke and captain Son Heung-min. Brandon Austin, Radu Dragusin, Jed Spence, Ben Davies, Archie Gray, Lucas Bergval, Dejan Kulusevski, Richarlison and Timo Werner on the bench. Porro gave Spurs the opener before they were pegged back by Jamie Vardy. Bentancur was booked for a foul before he was forced off for Gray, while Bergval, Werner and Kulusevski also replaced Sarr, Johnson and Maddison. Spence and Richarlison came on for Porro and Son, but it wasn't enough to get the win. Striker Jude Soonsup Bell has been sold to Cordoba for an undisclosed fee. Bentancur is definitely out, while it is unclear if Yves Bissouma will return following an internal suspension for a laughing gas video. Porro picked up an injury on Monday and is a doubt, while this game is probably too early for a return for Fraser Forster. Everton lost 3-0 at home to Brighton using a 4-2-3-1 formation. Jordan Pickford was in goal with a back four of Ashley Young, captain James Tarkowski, Michael Keane, and Vitaly Mikalenko. Tim Robingham and Idrissa Gueye were in the engine room, while Jack Harrison, Abdoulaye Doucouré, and Dwight McNeil were behind Dominic Calvert-Lewin in the front four. Joao Virginia, Jake O'Brien, Mason Holgate, Jesper Lindstrom, Jensen Metcalf, Harrison Armstrong, Iliman Ndiaye, Beto, and Neil Morpie were on the bench. They were 2-0 down before an hour had passed thanks to Kaoru Matoma and Danny Welbeck, while Ndiaye came on for Doucouré. Young was sent off soon after, and Beto came on for Calvert-Lewin with 50 minutes to go. Tarkowski was booked, and Holgate came on for Harrison. Simon Adingra made it 3-0, which is how it finished. Young is suspended, with Youssef Romao Chimiti, James Garner, Seamus Coleman, and Nathan Patterson definitely out, as is the out of contract Mamademi Ali. Tarkowski picked up a knock and is in doubt, while this game is probably too early for Jarrad Branthwaite. Last weekend wasn't how Tottenham wanted to start their season, despite a good first half. With high-pressing fullbacks, Bentancur often dropped back, turning it into a 3-4-3 in possession, and allowing Porro to get forward and get the opener. However, Steve Cooper's Leicester responded to this by being more aggressive in the second period, and they found it hard to react, allowing the Foxes wingers to exploit Spurs in wide areas. Everton pressed hard against Brighton, but this was ineffective, and they also relied on long balls, although Doucouré was often offside and Calvert-Lewin latched on to few. They'll be hoping for a reset against Spurs, but their injury-hit team is probably going to be hurt. I think Spurs will fix things up and condone Everton to another 3-0 defeat. The evening game is probably the pick of the bunch as Aston Villa host Arsenal. Unai Emery's side won 2-1 away to West Ham on Saturday, using a 4-2-3-1. Emiliano Martinez was in goal with a back four of Matty Cash, Ezri Konsa, Pau Torres, and Luca Digne. Amadou Onana and Yuri Tielemans were in the engine room, with Leon Bailey, Morgan Rogers, and captain John McGinn behind Ollie Watkins. Joe Gauci, Costa Nedeljkovic, Diego Carlos, Ian Martson, Ross Barkley, Emiliano Buendia, Jacob Ramsey, John Duran, and Jaden Philogene on the bench. Onana scored the opener before Bailey was booked. A Lucas Paquetá penalty levelled things, with Duran and Ramsey on for Watkins and McGinn after an hour. Philogene and Matson replaced Bailey and Digne late on, and Duran scored the winner. Nedeljkovic also got minutes, coming on for Cash, while Philogene got a late yellow. Boubacar Kamara and Tyrone Mings are definitely out for Villa, while Robin Olsen is a doubt, having missed the last game. Arsenal won 2-0 at home to Wolves using a 4-3-3. David Raya was in goal with a back four of Ben White, William Saliba, Gabriel Magalhaes, and Alexander Zinchenko. Captain Martin Odegaard, Thomas Partey, and Declan Rice were in midfield, while Bukayo Saka, Kai Havertz, and Gabriel Martinelli were the front three. Aaron Ramsdale, Jurrien Timber, Ricardo Calafiori, Jorginho, Ethan Ranieri, Gabriel Jesus, Eddie Nketiah, Leandro Trossard, and Reece Nelson were on the bench. Havertz scored the opener, with Saka booked after an hour. Timber replaced Zinchenko, while Saka buried the game. Trossard then replaced the England international, with Jesus coming on for Rice and picking up a yellow. Kieran Tierney and Takahiro Tomiyasu will definitely miss this one, while Fabio Ferreira Vieira may make a return. Villa picked up a huge win on Saturday with Rodgers in a new central position. Digne stayed forward while Cash came back in defence, leading to a back three, also using McGinn more centrally in defence. They're also more aggressive in the tackle than last season. Zinchenko often joined Arsenal's midfield in possession, allowing Rice more freedom in advanced areas. Havertz shifted towards the right to link up with Saka, also giving Martinelli more space. They also caught Wolves out often with quick set pieces. This will be very tough for Arsenal, who Villa did the double over last season. I don't think they'll win this time though. I predict a 2-1 win for Arsenal. On to Sunday's 2 p.m. game as Bournemouth host Newcastle. The Cherries drew 1-1 away to Forest on Saturday using a 4-2-3-1. Captain Neto was in goal with a back four of Adam Smith, Ilya Zabarnyi, Dean Huijsen and Milos Kerkez. Lewis Cook and Adam Scott were in the engine room with Dango Ouattara, Marcus Tavernier and Luis Sinisterra behind Antoine Semenyo. Mark Travers, James Hill, Julian Araujo, Ryan Christie, Hamid Traore, Philip Billing, Justin Kluivert, Daniel Jebison and Jayden Anthony were on the bench. Chris Wood put Forrest in front while Cook and Kerkez were booked early either side of half-time. Araujo, Christian Kluivert came on for Smith, Scott and Sinisterra with just after an hour gone, and Jebison then came on for Ouattara. The last sub was Billing on for Cook, and Semenyo got a late equaliser. Kluivert was also booked. Enes Unal is back in light training but won't be ready for this game, with Tyler Adams and David Brooks also out. Newcastle won 1-0 at home to Southampton using a 4-3-3 formation. Nick Pope was in goal with a back four of Tino Livramento, Fabian Schär, Dan Burn and Lewis Hall. Sean Longstaff, captain Bruno Guimaraes and Joel Linton were the midfield three, with Jacob Murphy, Alexander Isak and Anthony Gordon the front three. Martin Dubravka, Kieran Trippier, Matt Targett, Emil Kraft, Lloyd Kelly, Harvey Barnes, Miguel Almiron, Joe Willock and William Osula were on the bench. Hall was booked early on and Schär was sent off, with Kraft brought on for Murphy as a consequence. Joel Linton scored before half-time, with Barnes and Kelly coming on for Gordon and Hall. Burns was booked before the end. Schär is now suspended while Sandro Tonali is still banned. Sven Botman, Jamal Lascelles, Callum Wilson and Lewis Miley were all ruled out. Bournemouth used a false nine against Forest with no Dominic Solanke, but Evan Nielsen will probably be introduced soon, perhaps in this game, ending that experiment. Their pressing focused on midfielders pushing up and they had more recoveries than anyone apart from Man United last weekend. Even before the red card, Newcastle only had 33.8% possession against Southampton, and after it they set back even deeper, with Joel Linton often in his own box. Newcastle are the biggest mystery therefore, but I reckon Evan Nielsen will find his first taste of English football tough, and therefore predict a 1-0 win to the Magpies. There's another game at 2 p.m, not for TV purposes, as Wolves host Chelsea. The game has been moved to Sunday because of Chelsea's European commitments. Wolves lost their last game 2-0 away to Arsenal. They used a 4-2-3-1 with Jose Sarr in goal, a back four of Matt Doherty, Yerson Mosquera, Totti Gomes and Ryan Ait-Nouri. In the engine room were Joao Gomes and Mario Lemina, with Wang Hee-chan, Jean-Rick Bellegarde and Rodrigo Gomes behind Jurgen Strand-Larsen in the front four. Dan Bentley, Santiago Bueno, Craig Dawson, Daniel Podenza, Tommy Doyle, Pablo Sarabia, Mateus Cunha, Chiquinho and Gonçalo Guedes were on the bench. Joao Gomes was booked early on and Kai Havertz put them 1-0 down soon after. Totti Gomes also got booked, while Cunha replaced Bellegarde in the second half. Bukayo Saka made it 2-0 and Podenza replaced Rodrigo Gomes. Sarabia, Chiquinho and Dawson replaced Joao Gomes, Larson and Ait-Nouri late on. Semedo is still suspended and Enzo Gonzalez Medina, Leon Chawone and Sasa Kalajdzic are all ruled out. Chelsea played in Conference League action at home to Servette. They won the playoff first leg 2-0 with a 4-3-3. Philip Jurgensen was in goal with Renato Vega, Benoit Badiashile, Tosin Adraboyo and Axel Disasi, the back four. Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, Captain Moises Caicedo and Pedro Neto were the midfield three, with a front three of Christopher Nkunku, Mark Guiu and Mikhailo Mudryk. Robert Sanchez, Marcus Bettinelli, Mark Cucurella, Levi Colwell, Enzo Fernandez, Noni Madueke, Jackson Nicholas, Cole Palmer, Malo Gusto and Romeo Lavia were on the bench. Madueke scored the first goal with a penalty early in the second half, while soon after Madueke, Fernandez and Palmer came on for Neto, Nkunku and Guiu. Madueke got the second 15 minutes from time, Gusto came on for Disasi soon after that, and Lavia came on for Caicedo. Dewsbury Hall got the only yellow card in injury time. Reece James is out and George Petrovic and Amari Kellyman are expected to miss this one too. So Wolves are now using a back four, but their ploy to use Bellegarde to press high against Arsenal failed when Thomas Partey joined the Gunners' defence. They didn't fully drop the back three habit, with high fullbacks on the ball and Lamina making up the gap. They also pressed pretty well, though still couldn't deal with Arsenal. Chelsea played very centrally as they lost 2-0 at home to Man City, and 9 players were rested on Thursday, with only Caicedo and Nkunku starting both matches. Of that subs bench against Servette, only Bettinelli and Madueke didn't start against City. Wesley Fofana wasn't included at all in the match, despite there being space, so he may be also a doubt, although he is being eased back from injury. Enzo Maresca played pretty centrally, but was outsmarted by his old boss Pep Guardiola, as I detailed in the City Ipswich preview, as the Spaniard doubled up on the wings and stretched Chelsea. He'll not want to play Enzo Fernandez as a 10 again, as his pressing higher up did nothing, although Chelsea did have more possession than last season. I'll be interested to see if anyone impressed enough on Thursday to get into Enzo Maresca's starting 11. Many Blues fans are sick of Sanchez and perhaps Jorgensen will get the nod, although I doubt it. I think Chelsea may find things tough in the first half, but wear Wolves out by the second and pick up a 2-0 win. In the later game, Liverpool host Brentford. The Reds beat Ipswich away 2-0 in their last game using a 4-2-3-1 with Alisson Becker in goal, a back four of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Jarell Quansah, captain Virgil van Dijk and Andy Robertson. Ryan Gravenberch and Alexis McAllister are in the engine room with Mohamed Salah, Dominic Szoboszlai and Luis Diaz behind Diogo Jota in the back four. Queeman Kelleher, Ibrahima Konate, Kostas Tsimikas, Conor Bradley, Wataru Endo, Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, Darwin Nunez and Cody Gakpo are on the bench. Konate came on for Quansah at half-time with goals in a 5-minute spell after the hour mark from Jota and Salah. Bradley replaced Alexander-Arnold late on, and then Hakpo and Tsimikas replaced Jota and Robertson. Hakpo was booked in injury time. Liverpool have some transfer news, with midfielder Bobby Clark going to Red Bull Salzburg for £10 million, and defender Sepp van den Berg going to Brentford for £20 million, potentially rising to £25 million. They are free of injuries. Brentford won 2-1 at home to Crystal Palace in their last match. They used a 4-3-3 with Mark Flecken in goal. Mads Roslov, Nathan Collins, Ethan Pinnock and Christopher Ayer made up the back four, with captain Christian Nørgaard, Vitaly Janelt and Matthias Jensen in midfield. Brian Burmo, Johan Rissa and Kevin Schade were the front three. On the bench was Hakon Valdemarsson, Ben Mee, Fabio Carvalho, Frank Onyeka, Yahor Yarmolenko, Mikael Damsgaard, Miles Peart-Harris, Ryan Trevitt and Keane Lewis-Potter. Wissa was the first into the book before Mbermo scored the opener. In the second half, a Pinnock own goal levelled things, while late on, Damsgaard and Lewis-Potter came on for Janelt and Schade. Wissa made it 2-1 before Onyeka and Carvalho came on for Jensen and Wissa. Mee also got late minutes on for Mbermo. They've bought centre-back Sepp van den Berg for £25 million from Liverpool. Joshua Da Silva, Aaron Hickey, Rico Henry and Igor Thiago Nascimento Rodrigues are all out. Jensen pushed higher up than last season, making Brentford resemble a 4-2-4 formation at times against Palace. This could be to better suit Carvalho when he comes back into the side. However, they did go more defensive in the second half as Palace attacked, and Brentford are often fluid between 4 and 5-man defences. Under Arne Slot, Liverpool allow one midfielder to go more forward than in the Jurgen Klopp days. This was Soboslai, while Gravenberg stayed back to help cover. They're a bit more narrow than they were under Klopp, although Alexander-Arnold is still allowed to roam into midfield. I don't expect Liverpool to drop points here. I think it's another 2-0 win. Well, there it is, all the predictions on the screen. Once again, I encourage people to tell me why I'm wrong and know nothing about football in the replies to help the algorithm. Thanks very much for watching and put your predictions below.